Young and the Restless spoilers. Nick Newman had always been a man who valued loyalty and family above all else, but lately, that loyalty had turned into something far more dangerous: blind devotion. When it came to Sharon, the woman who had been a constant in his life for so many years, Nick was willing to ignore the mounting evidence that pointed to her involvement in Heather's murder. He knew the truth. He had long suspected that Sharon had something to do with the crime, but he chose to bury those suspicions deep within, telling himself that his priority was protecting her, not seeking justice. Phyllis Summers, on the other hand, had lost all patience with Nick. She could see what was happening, even if Nick refused to acknowledge it. Nick had chosen Sharon over her, over their relationship, over what was right. In Phyllis's eyes, he had made a terrible mistake, a choice that would come back to haunt him. He had thrown away their love to protect a woman who was a murderer. And for what? Phyllis couldn't help but wonder if Nick had lost his mind completely. Was his bond with Sharon worth destroying everything they had built together? For Nick, however, it wasn't that simple. He wasn't just protecting Sharon, he was also safeguarding his children, Mariah and Faith. The three of them had made a pact in the heat of the moment, an unspoken vow that they would protect Sharon at all costs. They had convinced themselves that Sharon was innocent, or at least, that if she were guilty, it was an accident, something that didn't deserve punishment. And so, they became complicit, unintentionally aligning themselves with Sharon's crimes. Every lie, every half-truth they told only bound them further into Sharon's web. What they saw as love and protection was, in reality, a dangerous complicity that threatened to destroy them all. Mariah, always protective of her mother, had led the charge, insisting that they shield Sharon from the inevitable storm. Faith, torn between her love for her mother and her own moral compass, hesitated but eventually fell in line. Nick, caught in the middle, knew that they were heading down a dark path, but he couldn't bring himself to stop it. He loved Sharon, perhaps more than he was willing to admit, and that love blinded him to the reality of what they were doing. In his heart, Nick knew the truth, but his mind refused to accept it. They had all convinced themselves that they were simply protecting a mother, a lover, someone who had lost control in a moment of weakness. But as much as Nick wanted to believe that, Phyllis wasn't buying it. She had known Nick for years, and she could see through his facade. It wasn't just love that kept him defending Sharon, it was guilt. Nick wasn't just shielding Sharon from the law, he was actively helping her cover up a murder, and Phyllis was sure of it. To her, Nick wasn't just a man blinded by emotion. He was a man who had crossed the line from protector to accomplice. And that made him just as guilty as Sharon in her eyes. Phyllis had her reasons for wanting to expose Nick and Sharon. The loss of her relationship with Nick stung, but more than that, she had a mission to save her son Daniel and her granddaughter Lucy from the disaster that was unfolding around them. Heather's murder had shaken their lives to the core, and Phyllis couldn't sit back and let Sharon, and possibly Nick, get away with it. She had fought too hard, endured too much, to let everything slip away because of their deception. As the investigation continued, Phyllis became more determined than ever to bring the truth to light. Every day, she watched Nick grow more entangled in Sharon's web of lies, and it made her blood boil. Nick had chosen Sharon over her, over their family, and now he was willing to destroy himself for that choice. But Phyllis wasn't going to let it happen. She believed that once the truth was revealed, Nick would go down with Sharon, and she would be there to witness their fall. In Phyllis's mind, justice was inevitable. The evidence was piling up against Sharon, and it was only a matter of time before Nick's involvement became clear as well. If Sharon went to prison, Nick would soon follow, and Phyllis would be the victor in this twisted game of betrayal and deceit. For her, it was more than just revenge, it was about protecting her family and righting the wrongs that Sharon and Nick had committed. And in a way, she believed that it was what Nick deserved. He had betrayed her, thrown away their relationship, and sided with the woman who had caused so much pain. Phyllis had lost the man she loved, but she wouldn't lose her sense of justice. She was prepared to go to any lengths to see Sharon and Nick held accountable for their actions. Nick's fate was now tied to Sharon's. If the truth came out, he would be ruined. His involvement in covering up Heather's murder, his lies, his willingness to protect Sharon at the expense of everything else, it would all come